Welcome to the Prose Nook and Titbits of Greek Mythos, where the stories are ancient but the drama evergreen. Learning is a lifelong journey. Huh. We all have heard that since school days. Sounds so dull, doesn't it? And yet, here we are, sprinting on the same hamster wheel, chasing the knowledge and skills just to keep up with this hyper competitive, never pausing life. Some of us are trapped behind desks, others wake up with $1 million startup ideas that still rely on mom's Wi Fi. And some just plain lost, flipping coins to choose a path only to land right back into the same rat race. We are all in it, just with a better coffee and worse sleep. Now, we can't fix that loop in a day, but we can jump off the wheel for a bit and leap into a world full of imagination, monsters, gods, impossible quests, and a guy who went from zero to hero before it was a Disney ball. The original gym bro, lion skin wearing, monster smashing, who learned his powers gradually. Well, now it's time for you to relax. Stretch those mortal limbs. We are traveling back to 1286 BC, when protein shakes didn't exist, but wrestling giant boars definitely did. Son of Zeus and mortal Alcmene, twin brother of Iphicles. Guessed it yet? No? The child who strangled snakes sent by Hera while still in his crib. None other than the mighty muscular-bound Hercules. But here's a fun question. If Hercules and Iphicles were twins, why was only one of them a demigod? Well, I wasn't exactly shocked by what I found out. I mean, of course, it was Zeus, the king of tricks and terrible boundaries. Zeus, always hungry for legacy and glory, wanted a son so powerful as himself, a demigod who could help the Olympians and protect humanity. So, naturally, he pulled a Zeus move. He set his sights on Alcmene, wise, beautiful, and a descendant of Prose, a perfect candidate. And when her husband, Amphitryon, went off for war, Zeus saw his golden opportunity. Obviously, he disguised himself as Amphitryon, swaggered into their home, and spent the night with her. Not just any night, a night he magically stretched to 3 times its normal length, just to enjoy her company a little longer. Then, plot twist. The real Amphitryon returns the very next day, completely unaware of Zeus' celestial stunt double act. He too slept with Alcmene. Next, 9 months later, she birthed 2 babies. Hercules, son of Zeus, demigod, super strong, and Iphicles, son of Amphitryon, mortal, regular human. And there you have it, one divine birth, one dramatic mess, and a set of twins who shared a mother but a very different destiny. P.S. Amphitryon actually forgave Alcmene. After all, it wasn't her fault. She was literally tricked by the king of gods, pulling a cosmic catfish move. Amphitryon stayed by her side, raised both boys, and gave Hercules the mortal upbringing he needed. Hera wasn't any less of a trickster than her husband Zeus. Fueled by jealousy, she made it her life's mission to torment Hercules. Sure, her early attempts to harm him failed. Baby Hercules literally strangled 2 snakes she sent to kill him in his crib. But Hera was not one to give up. She was biding her time, silently plotting her real move. Meanwhile, Hercules grew up into a mighty warrior, the stuff of legends. At one point, he single handedly drove the minions out of Thebes. And as a thank you, Creon, king of Thebes, offered him his daughter Megara's hand in marriage. Life seemed good. Hercules and Megara had 3 children, and for a brief moment, peace seemed possible. But this is a Greek mythology. Peace never lasts. Just when things were looking up, Hera struck. This time, not with the monsters or weapons, but with madness. She used her divine powers to infiltrate Hercules' mind, twisting his reality and infecting him with uncontrollable rage. Blinded by Hera's curse, Hercules committed the unthinkable. He killed his own wife and children without realizing what he was doing. And here's the tragic part. When the madness faded and clarity returned, the weight of his actions crushed him. Even after discovering it was all Hera's doings, he took responsibility. He was devastated, guilt-ridden, and desperate for redemption. So, where does a broken demigod go to atone for a crime he didn't even know he committed? To Apollo, of course, god of truth and healing. And Apollo, being all wise and little dramatic himself, declared that Hercules must undergo 10 near impossible labors to cleanse his soul. And that, dear listeners, is how the stage was set for the legendary 10 labor of Hercules, a journey of strength and suffering, and oddly enough, a lot of lion skin. You think I made a mistake by calling it a 10 labors of Hercules. But wait until you find out how the infamous labors turns 12. Apollo promised that if Hercules successfully completed all 10 labors, he would not only be redeemed of his sin, but also earn his place amongst the gods on the Mount Olympus. So it begins. But first, let's be clear, Apollo's punishment wasn't about shame or brute punishment. It was about atonement, purification, humility. It was about facing danger with no promise of reward, only the hope of redemption. These were virtues of a true hero, and more importantly, virtues worthy of a god. In a way, the labors were less about killing monsters and more about conquering the self. They were a divine training program, you can say, a crash course in becoming more than mortal. Let's break it down. Hercules had to face his rage and madness, survive the impossible, navigate through temptation, confront monsters without becoming one, learn to ask for help instead of drowning in pride, tame nature, and serve others, even those unworthy of him, all while using clever strategy, adaptability, and yes, a lot of muscle. Strangely enough, this list is starting to sound like a KPI sheet from an annual appraisal meeting, isn't it? Show humility, solve chaos, collaborate, team management, adapt, demonstrate leadership through monster slaying ability, multitasking. Sounds familiar? I thought so. Apollo appointed King Eurystheus to oversee and validate each of Hercules' tasks, because what is a divine punishment without middle management? Right? And now we move to labor 1. The lion. the beast that looked like a lion but fought like a tank. The task? Slay this monstrous creature. Now, this wasn't your average jungle cat. This lion had a hide tougher than an ego on a performance review day, impervious to arrows, blades, and mortal logic. Naturally, Hercules being the demigod and muscles, he tried arrows first. It didn't work out, they bounced right off. Swords? Useless. So what did our hero do? He went and barehanded wrestled the lion inside its own cave and strangled it to death. Then, using the lion's own claw, because no man-made blades could pierce its skin, he skinned the beast. If that wasn't enough, he wore the lion's pelt like a cloak, marched straight to Eurystheus' palace to prove the job was done. And what did the king do? He panicked and hid inside a giant bronze jar. Yes, the royal validator decided it was safer to be a talking echo from a metal pot. Labor 2. The Hydra. Task: kill the 9-headed serpent who guarded the entrance to the underworld in the swamps of Lerna. Simple? Think again. One cut would grow 2 more heads in return. Sounds like a typical bug fix in development. Every time you fix one, 2 new ones magically appears until the super lead steps in. So here how it goes. Hercules took help from his trusty nephew, Iolaus. Each time Hercules chopped off one of the Hydra's head, Iolaus would torch the next stump with fire. No head, no regeneration. Eventually, Hercules beheaded all the mortal heads, then crushed the immortal central head under a massive rock. No respawn. He even dipped his arrows in the Hydra's poisonous blood, a deadly souvenir for future quests. But just as he walked in ready for validation, King Eurystheus rejected it. Why? Because Hercules took help, and apparently, divine KPIs require solo efforts only. So, as expected, management handed him one more penalty task. And now the scorecard reads, Hercules have a total of 11 labors. Labor 3. The Hind. The task? Capture the golden horned deer sacred to Artemis. Now, again, this wasn't your average deer, the kind that freezes under headlights or bolts at a twig snap. This one had golden antlers, bronze hooves, and a sprint speed so insane it could dodge Artemis' own arrows. The Artemis, goddess of the hunt. So naturally, the hind was off limits, sacred, untouchable, let it live and let it roam kind of deal. And yet, our dear Hercules had a task to complete, which meant a divine hiccup was incoming. Hercules didn't charge in brute force this time. Instead, he waited and waited and waited for a whole year. He tracked the hind patiently across mountains, valleys, forests, made a whole tour of ancient Greece, until finally he safely captured it without harming a single divine hair. Naturally, Artemis was furious. But guess what? Hercules shockingly unlocked level 1 of diplomacy. He politely explained to Artemis and Apollo that this was a divine business sent from the Olympus itself. After some divine sibling whispering and a grace pass from Apollo, Artemis agreed to lend the hind just for the task. Hercules then returned to King Eurystheus, but with a strategic plan for something better. As Eurystheus stepped forward to take possession of the hind, the deer dashed off. Turns out, Hercules cued this moment, allowing the hind to escape, thus keeping Artemis happy, and the task ticked off as complete. So, yes, no blood, no brawls, no body count. This time, at least. Just a year of cardio, divine negotiations. Labor foe, the boar. Task: capture the giant boar ravaging Mount Erymanthus. Hardship just doesn't seem to end, does it? And with still 7 more labors to go, Hercules had no choice but to press on. That's dedication. When you really want redemption, when you really want something so bad that no amount of interference, exhaustion, or even cold weathers can stop you. Muscular Hercules charged headfirst, where the monstrous boar were causing absolute mayhem for the villagers. This was a four-legged avalanche with tusks rampaged through the houses, people, and their crops. The battle raged on for weeks. Hercules wrestled it through the forest, chased it up slopes, and finally drove it into deep snow. Nature's trap card. There, he overpowered the beast, tied it up, slung it over his shoulder like a rag doll, and marched straight back to the palace. Now, ever noticed when a mess finally shows up at a management's doorstep, suddenly everyone vanishes? Yeah, that's what our king did. He took one look at this living, one very, very angry boar, and did what any other brave bureaucrat would do. Hid in a bronze jar. Again. The good news? He did validate this one. The boar was contained and alive. Sanity? Hanging by a thread, perhaps. Labor 5. Clean King Augeas stable in a day. Seriously? Clean a stable? After battling monsters, this sounded like a break. Much needed. But then I learned this wasn't any ordinary stable. It hadn't been cleaned for over 30 years. 30. Imagine the stench. So, not a break, more like a literal divine punishment. Now, Hercules wasn't about to pick up a shovel and go all elbow deep into cattle dung. Not our guy. He spotted 2 rivers flowing nearby, and a plan was born. What does a demigod do when he needs plumbing? He breaks the stable walls, digs trenches, and reroutes 2 entire rivers straight through the stables. Instant flush system. Very smart. By sunset, the stables were cleaner than most of our rooms after parental meltdown. They looked fresh, probably smelled even better than they had in decades. Victory? No, not so fast. King Eurystheus, our favorite nitpicker, rejected the labor. Why? Because Hercules did not clean it himself. Apparently, using rivers was a cheat code. Guess the king wanted to see Hercules on poop duty with a mop. Anyway, the task was not validated and happens to even the strongest ones. So anyway, a penalty task is in order for Mr. Hercules. Because he used brain. What justice? And that's how we come to the terms of Hercules and 12 labors. Labor 6. The birds. Task: drive away deadly birds with bronze beak and metallic feathers. Ah, the morning chirping of birds. The serene soundtrack that we pretend to enjoy on weeks. Let's be honest, it's more like an alarm that we didn't set, and it brings no Cinderella level joy motivation to rise and shine. But we still grind. Hamster wheel, right? Anyway, the birds our dear Hercules had to deal with. Not your average feathered friends, but nothing's ever ordinary in myths. These particular birds were designed for chaos, with bronze beak that could snap through armor, and metallic feathers they launched like arrows. They were aerial assassins, not peaceful. And their purpose? Menace. They ravaged crops, gored cattle, attacked humans, and basically turned Lake Stymphalia into a do not enter zone. So, of course, the ever dramatic bronze jar loving king tossed this task onto Hercules' list. Go deal with the killer pigeons. Hercules, ever up for a ridiculous challenge by now, got a little help from Athena. Not a cheat code, just a divine backup. She handed him sacred bronze clappers, crafted by Hephaestus, no less. Hercules clanged those clappers to create a terrifying noise that sent the birds screeching into the sky. And once airborne, Hydra poisoned arrows. Remember from Labor 2? Down they went. Hercules then presented the lifeless birds as proof to King. Task was validated and another badge unlocked. Pest Control Hero. Someone updated his LinkedIn. Labor 7. The Bulls. Task: capture the rampaging bull from Crete. Something truly challenging for Hercules. Glorious muscles back into action. A bit of backstory on this infamous bull. It was a gift turned wrath, thanks to Poseidon. In those days, sacrificial killing wasn't just tradition. It was prestige, proof of loyalty, and divine respect. Poseidon expected just that from King Minos of Crete. So he sent a magnificent white bull from the sea, expecting Minos to sacrifice it in the god's honor. But Minos, well, he grew soft-hearted. Maybe he admired the bull's beauty, maybe he just didn't have it in him. Instead of killing Poseidon's gift, he sacrificed some lesser creature. Now, in godly terms, this wasn't compassion, it was disobedience, perhaps even pride. Poseidon took it as a slap to the divine face. You know how it goes. Break the rules once, even with good intentions, and suddenly you're arrogant. Sounds familiar? So, Poseidon cursed the bull, filled it with madness and fury. The once noble creature turned into a rampaging nightmare, trampling the crops, killing and injuring villagers, and basically going on a divine tantrum. And thus the mighty king added his bull-wrangling madness to Hercules' to-do list. Hercules, of course, was up for it. He sailed to Crete, faced the raging beast, and fought it head-on. No arrows, no tricks, just raw strength and courage. He didn't kill it, he wrestled it into submission and proved who the boss was. Then, in typical Hercules fashion, he shipped the beast to King Eurystheus for validation. And Eurystheus, I sincerely doubt on King's decision-making skills. He left the bull in the wild. And as one can think what good may come out of this, the bull eventually wandered to Athens and resumed its reign of terror until it was finally killed by Theseus. Labor 8. The Mares. Task: steal the man-eating horses of King Diomedes. At this point, I shouldn't be surprised by the profoundly cursed creatures Hercules has to face. But man-eating horse? Come on. The majestic beast that strut with pride and elegance? The ones we still get excited about when we pass by a field and yell, "Look, a horse!" Yeah, those. Turns out, Diomedes, son of Ares, god of war, had bred these magnificent creatures to feast on human flesh. Because what else would you expect from the offspring of war? These weren't your carousel kind of ponies. Some versions of the myth say Diomedes fed his enemies to the horses. Others say any poor soul who set foot in Thracian land was dinner. And now Hercules was tasked with stealing them, not borrowing, from the home turf. As expected, plan or no plan, it escalated quickly into a fight. Diomedes wasn't exactly open to negotiation. And the war. The son of war was no match to the demigod. Hercules beat him in the combat. And in fitting, what goes around comes around. Hercules fed Diomedes to his own horses. Justice? Strangely, that meal broke the curse. Or maybe fulfilled it. I don't know. After devouring their master, the horses calmed down. No more carnivore cravings. Anyway, Hercules delivered them to King Eurystheus, who, upon seeing flesh-eating horses gone tame, freaked out. What if they remembered the taste again and changed their diet? Too risky. So, in typical Eurystheus style, panic and overreaction, he let them loose into the wild. Task completed, another tick on Hercules' curse checklist. Labor 9. The Belt of Hippolyta. Task: retrieve the magical war belt of Hippolyta, queen of the Amazons. This particular task felt more personal. King Eurystheus always mixing royal duties with personal errands. Slip this one into Hercules' list. His daughter wanted the belt of Hippolyta, and of course, our bronze jar king wouldn't be able to retrieve it himself without shedding blood. So naturally, he threw it into Hercules' to-do list and crossed his arm. I believe Hercules expected a war for it, just for a belt. But what value does it really hold? For your knowledge, the belt symbolizes power and authority. Some myth says that it offered protection in battle, magical. The belt was said to be a gift from Ares, the god of war, to his daughter Hippolyta. That's no ordinary leather strap then. To Hercules' surprise, Hippolyta was actually willing to give him the belt. She admired him, his strength, reputation, muscles, maybe even his dimples. Things could have ended peacefully, but Hera, of course, she didn't want Hercules to breeze through any of these labors. She disguised herself as one of the Amazons and spread the rumor that Hercules planned to kidnap Hippolyta. I understand the rage, but really, why take it all on the stepson? Shouldn't the father, Zeus, be held accountable for once? As expected, chaos erupted. The Amazons attacked, a fierce war broke out, and in the end Hercules won. But at a cost. Hippolyta died in the crossfire. Some says it did not matter to King Eurystheus. He got the belt, handed it to his daughter, and validated the task. Just another tick on the scroll. Labor 10. The Cattle of Geryon. Task: steal the red cattle from the three-bodied giant Geryon, who lived at the edge of the world. This was a test of Hercules' endurance, strength, and sheer will. Not only did he have the time to travel to the farthest reach of the earth, but he also had to face deadly foes guarding the prize. The task itself, stealing, already feels morally grey. But King Eurystheus did not seem to care. Geryon was a fearsome giant with 3 bodies, 3 heads, and 6 arms, all fused at the waist. He owned a herd of magnificent red cattle that he jealously guarded, refusing to share with anyone. Talk about exploitation. Hercules' journey was brutal. He crossed deserts, sailed rough seas, hot in the hot sun, and finally reached Geryon's land. First, he slayed Orthrus, the 2-headed dog guarding the herd. Then he killed the herdsman, Eurytion. And finally, he took down Geryon himself, shooting 3 arrows simultaneously to dispatch the giant. Multitasking? Checked. But Hera wasn't done. She sent a tiny but relentless gadfly to torment the cattle, biting them, irritating it, and scattering them across Europe. Hercules had to chase down the runaway herds all over again, finally bringing them back. When he returned, King Eurystheus accepted the cattle, but insisted they be sacrificed to Hera to appease her. Seems like the poor cattle paid a heavy price for their owner's greed and Hercules' endless labor. At this point, I wondered if Hercules' mind was really sane with this relentless task and tricky politics. Labor 11. The Apples of Hesperides. Task: retrieve golden apples from the garden of Hesperides, guarded by the dragon named Ladon. This was truly a Herculean task, pun intended. The divine garden was located at the edge of the earth. The real mission? To break Hercules' spirit. King Eurystheus did not actually wanted the apples. Even he knew they were too sacred to be handled. These golden apples were wedding gifts from Gaia, Earth, to Hera when she married Zeus. That's ancient divine level sentimental value. Still, Hercules wasn't one to back down. He sought help from Atlas, the titan doomed to hold up the sky. Their deal was simple. Atlas would fetch the apples. Hercules would hold up the heavens on his shoulders in the meantime. When Atlas returned with the apples, he tried to trick Hercules into holding the sky forever. But Hercules, playing clever for once, asked Atlas to take the sky back just for a minute while he adjusted his cloak. Once Atlas did, Hercules took the apples and bolted. King Eurystheus validated the task. Wait, wasn't that cheating? Debatable. But since Hercules held the sky, arguably the harder job, and returned the apples to the garden himself, he got a pass. Now, coming to the luring question in your mind, how did Atlas manage to get those apples so casually? Well, it's all in the family. The garden was guarded by the Hesperides, who happens to be the daughters of Atlas, so no fighting that. And Ladon, the dragon. In some versions, Ladon was put to sleep or didn't attack Atlas due to the fear or divine permission. Atlas, being the father of the guardians and a mighty titan, held a VIP pass and simply walked in like he owned the place. Labor 12. The capture of Cerberus. Task: bring back Cerberus, the 3-headed guarded dog of the underworld, alive. This was Hercules' final trial, and it wasn't just meant to break his body, it was meant to break his soul. The king was basically saying, let's see you walk into literal death and come back. Cerberus, the monstrous hound of Hades, had 3 heads, a serpent for a tail, and a temper that could make Ares blush. He guarded the gates of the underworld to make sure no soul escaped or living mortal entered. Under divine persuasion, with help of few gods, Hercules made his way to the underworld. Once there, Hercules met Hades, god of the dead. Instead of outright stealing Cerberus, Hercules asked permission. Simply asked. And Hades agreed on one condition. Hercules must subdue Cerberus using only his bare hands, no weapons. The fight was brutal. Cerberus was no ordinary beast, and he didn't want to leave his post. But Hercules, all muscles and grit, wrestled the monstrous dog into submission, holding on despite of bites, venom, and wild thrashing. Eventually, Cerberus gave in. Hercules dragged the snarling, snapping Cerberus back up to the mortal world and straight to the king's palace. The king, who once hid in a bronze jar from the boar, nearly fainted at the sight of this monster. He didn't even want to keep Cerberus. He just screamed, "Task complete!" So, Hercules returned Cerberus safe to Hades. Mission complete. With this, Hercules completed all 12 labors, earning not just redemption, but immortality, legend status, and the gods' favor. Overall, it nearly took him whole 12 years to complete the exhausting divine KPIs. A checklist where each tick nearly cost him his sanity, soul, or spine, but he emerged stronger, wiser, and justifiably done with the errands forever. Doesn't the story of the labors oddly mirror the task handed to you just because management decided so? Tasks that make you wonder, why me? And yet, there you are pulling through. Once again, we all become Hercules in our own skin. We have our own battles to fight, battling monsters in our own ways, some with spreadsheets, will, emails, whatever. I hope you enjoyed this mythic journey through the BCs with me. Until next time, happy listening, and may your labors be just a little less Herculean.